there was a moment where you felt like giving up in what you do, what was it that made you get back on the horse?
That's quite apt, I think, for me, because I did give up Evile, and I was out of it for 5 years. And the thing that brought me back was I genuinely just missed doing what I love, because when we play live and play these songs, it does something for me that nothing else can. And just thinking of that, and just kind of mentioning to Matt, my brother, when he was in the band, if you ever need a guitarist again, let me know. And it just so happened that they did. So I thought, let's do it again. So yeah, just the love for doing it brought me back.
To give you some sense of perspective, I guess, having the time away. Like, 'cause I know we talked about this well, I can't remember if it was briefly, or I can't remember how long we talked about it for last time, but do you get some sense of perspective? You know, how do you look back on that period now, sort of where you're at now?
I'm glad I did it because, well, one, I have kids now and settled down a bit, got a proper job. And yeah, it did make me appreciate things more, because when I left, they got to the point where it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. It was one thing after another. It was just like, really? And I'd had enough. But then stepping away, taking stock of everything, and accepting that it's a hobby and it's never going to be a career. That was a learning curve, like pushing and pushing to try and make it like a sustainable financial thing. Just, it wasn't going to happen. So accepting that and coming back, just knowing it's a hobby, it helped on that front.
Yeah. And so obviously it's been about a year since we spoke, I think. I remember.
Really? Wow.
It has. I know. Yeah. I was in Venice when your podcast episode went up. I remember that. Not that you would remember that, but I remember that. So yeah, what's new? What's new in your life? I noticed you've got a lot more views on your Instagram page since we last spoke.
I don't fully know why. I did a few funny videos and it just kind of blew up a bit, which is cool. We have some UK and Ireland tour dates coming up with Evile, starting in Brighton next week. If you go to evilecult.com, you can see all the dates there. Other than that, I've not even considered writing new music yet. It's usually as soon as an album is finished and we do some gigs, I start writing again for the next album. This time around, I'm older, I have kids, I have less time, and it's just, I don't even want to think about writing music right now. So it's just that tour coming up, and that's it for now.
How does kind of touring life change as you get older, and as sort of life grows around what you're doing? How does your perspective on touring and your experience of it kind of change?
I can only speak from my experience, because there are obviously bands who are more successful who will have, a more comfortable life in touring. But for us, it's the older I've got, well, my back hurts more now, but it's just a bit more challenging, especially because of the nature of the industry now. It's very expensive to do. It's just a challenge, I would say. It's not as easy as booking some gigs and going there. There's everything, like the cost of the transport, the fuel, everything. So I don't want to talk too negatively about it, because it's all about playing the gigs, which is the best thing. But there are lots of challenges that I think that happen. It might not even be an age thing, me being older. It's just that's how it is now.
And so is
my back hurts.
Yeah, I've been trying to go to the gym more, and my back hurts as well. I think it's a healthy back hurt. I think. I hope so. I mean, I'm 25, so I would hope that there's got to be something pretty wrong if it's not. But
yeah, hopefully it's a good back hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure. Yeah, although I find it clicks way too much. I don't know if you get that.
I click in a few places, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm 39, so I'm a bit ahead of you in clicking.
At what point is it like when back stuff starts to, when can I expect my back to just like start?
Well, I have a different path with that because my back started hurting many years ago from headbanging so much playing gigs. Even so, I can't remember if we talked about this the last time, but I went to a chiropractor who did an x-ray of my spine, and she walked in and said, "What the hell do you do? Like, what do you mean?" And I have the back of a 60-year-old, and all the bones in my spine were starting to grow claws to fuse together. Because when you headbang, your spine obviously doesn't like it. Mine didn't like it that much that it started to grow them claws to fuse it together so it would stop that motion. Luckily, I stopped headbanging in time and I can still move, or else I would have had like 15% mobility in my neck and spine, so I'd have been like that. But
stopped headbanging in time. What are you, the bass player? Come on, I think that was actually
it was pretty quick there. That was good.
I was like I didn't want to be rude, and if you had a really lengthy explanation I would have dropped that, but I was like, I've got to get that in. I was tempted between drummer and bass player, but I was like, no, I think bass players
bass players are funnier.
Yeah, there's something about
as butt of the jokes.
Yeah. I've got a guitar student who I'm still trying to convince him that there is a reason that bass exists. He just won't have it. It's like it's just like there to be the other guitar. I'm like, it's not. So we just have this constant back and forth.
It helps. Bass does help.
It does. Yeah. It's I've grown to appreciate it more. I quite enjoy. You probably heard that. I was gonna say I've got a little bass. I have a huge bass.
The interesting thing I find is that I write a riff and it's a good riff and I enjoy it, and it just doesn't kick as much as I'd like. As soon as I put bass underneath it, there we go. So yeah, bass is definitely definitely needed.
What's your, actually, this is something that came up with, funnily enough, with this student, actually, I'd be interested to hear your take. So, like, and I'm sure you get this, must have had it when, oh, well, I'm interested to know whether you had it when sort of putting these latest tunes together. That initial demo phase, especially when you've got a backlog of songs that you've released, you know, you've got they're professionally produced, you've gone through all the production stages and they're out there. When you go to then write something new, and it's you're like, you know, you've got one guitar track, some programmed drums, and it just sounds crap because there's only, unless you're gonna, you know, like produce it on the spot. I do as much as I can, but how do you kind of know when an idea is going to work? Because it's so easy to listen to, you know, this underproduced idea that you've just got it kind of thrown onto whatever it is that you record with. How do you know if an idea is going to work when you're so used to hearing all of your ideas in such great sort of like production quality?
It's an interesting topic because I don't think I have an actual answer other than I always try and think of it like I think I've heard David Lynch say this about an idea for a film, like if you kind of fall in love with the idea and it makes a connection in some way, and I kind of feel the need to complete it and build on it. And that's when I know that I've got something good because I feel that it's good. I think I might have mentioned this before, but when I write a song, I don't look at it like I'm trying to write a song. I look at it like the song's already written in like another universe somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out what the song is. And in that way, I don't really get writer's block. I just can't find the next part. And I think something to do with that, when it's right, something clicks and I feel that it's right. It's not me going, I guess that'll do. It's like I've worked really hard to find that and it's just right. I can't fully explain, but it's that falling in love with the idea, which sounds silly because it's a riff or something, but something like that. Yeah,
I've been really sorry. My phone's buzzing. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm gonna chuck it on the sofa. He didn't go on the
smash.
Floor. Excellent. I just so the M key on my laptop is like broke off. Like it didn't break off. I took it off and it went, and it's now dodgy. And I called the Mac repair people, and they said it'll be £200 for a new keyboard on my Mac. So I got some super glue, and it works. Sort of. It works 70% of the time.
Saying that, my right arrow key on my Mac keyboard is just sat hovering above that.
For anyone listening, he just did like a nice little show and tell. I would give it a solid, I'm pressing M now, a good 80% of the clicks, it's good. And then, but that's kind of an annoying amount, because then you're used to it working, and then every now and again.
Yeah.
So in the notes for your podcast, I need to ask you about the Albu.
Albu.
Yeah. So speaking of the Albu, something when I was having a quick listen, and I don't know if this is going to be one of those moments where you say, I got a real vibe of this, and you're listening going, what would you be listening to?
Maybe.
But I got a real like 90s Metallica kind of vibe, and I don't know if that's kind of like again, because whenever anyone references Metallica, it's like if you say someone you're in a metal band, they go, oh, like Metallica, and you're like, I get it.
I mean, the
but
Metallica thing's followed us around. It's followed us around since we even played a single note, so
yeah,
I'm used to it. It was unavoidable because I did my best. Well, the goal for the album, once we started feeling the songs, was to try tempos that we'd never tried before. So we always found out that like our songs were either really fast or mid-paced. There's nothing in between or below that. And we have a few slower songs, and when we play them live, we really enjoy it, like this more stompier stuff. So we said, let's just do the polar opposite of Hell Unleashed. Let's flip it on its head, do mostly heavy, groovy stuff and some thrash. And that was a problem in itself, because there's no way for a band like Evile to slow down to slower tempos and not instantly get Metallica comparisons from the 90s. So it's a catch-22. It's like, that's why I don't care. I genuinely don't care anymore. So we just do it. We write the songs until we enjoy them and they're good to go. We don't worry about, what if someone thinks it sounds like blah, blah, blah. Because we'd never do anything if no artist would ever do anything if they're worried about what people think. So, go nuts. Think it's Metallica if you want.
Oh no, I meant it as a sincere compliment. I think it's there's and I think the thing is in today's sort of metal atmosphere, or that's not the best word, is it? But you know what I mean.
Landscape.
That's a better one. Yeah. It seems to be all about kind of it doesn't seem to embrace the sort of some of the classic elements of what made metal kind of what it certainly what it used to be. I feel like that's not a bad thing at all. You know, things evolve, but it's always interesting. Like I like the new Silosis record.
Yeah,
I feel like
very good.
It's got some of the like, newer kind of feel to it, and it's certainly produced as such. But I don't know. I feel like you can hear that the influence of some of the more classic stuff. Do you think there's anything maybe that? And I'm not asking you to pick out any bands or genres or whatever in particular, but do you think there's anything maybe that modern bands or musicians maybe could learn from some of the older stuff, or maybe that they're missing out?
I wouldn't say anything or anyone specific, but what I learned is when I'm writing music, as soon as I feel that knee-jerk reaction of, we can't do that, it makes me want to do it more. And I think that's why there's a lot of classic elements in our music, because the second I think, oh, that sounds a bit like so-and-so, I don't care, because that means it's good to me. If it feels good and you're not like literally ripping off someone's music, that to me is a good thing. So I think newer bands just need to embrace things a bit more. Not try, like every band is influenced by another band or artist. Like one of my videos on Instagram's about the part in Master of Puppets that was taken from the David Bowie song.
Super interesting.
Andy Warhol. And if you're a musician, it's obvious. Even if you're not a musician, you can hear the similarity. And everyone does it. And I just use your influences. That's why they influence you. I think don't be scared of getting inspiration from things that you love. It's not about tricking people into thinking you don't have inspiration from artists. It's like, just do it. Go for it.
I think there's a definite, because there's so much music around, well, it's not, maybe there's not more music around necessarily, but there's more readily available music. it feels really difficult to stand out, and I think people are a little bit desperate to do something different for the sake of doing something different.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're genuinely trying to do, if you're like a Polyphia or whatever, and that is what you do, then that's great. But then ironically, I think sometimes you end up hearing songs, particularly in the metal world, where things get more and more complicated and more. I'm not bashing like prog music. I like some of that stuff, but it feels like sometimes there's just this search for lower, heavier, more complicated, more smarter, inverted commas, kind of music, and obviously then you get some of the same people bashing 4-chord songs that do brilliantly. It's like it's because it works. It's
make
good.
Your mind up.
how far a good song, if it sounds good, it is good. That's like the ultimate rule, isn't it?
I think one problem, I'm not a problem with metal, but one thing I find with metal is it's such a strict genre in the unwritten rules that people have for the music. So if you release a thrash album, people who like thrash are going to listen to it with their rules in their ears to like, is this thrash or not? Does it do the things I like about thrash or not? And it's very specific. Like, people are very passionate about their metal. And if it's not just right, they won't have it. So I think there's just so many rules with metal sometimes. Like, I know them myself, because if I hear a thrash band, I'm like, didn't like that. But it'll be a tiny thing. And I don't know why it is. People are very defensive and protective over their metal. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't listen to newer metal bands, because they're so happy with their classics that they don't give it a chance because they're so used to that. And I think that's a problem that like Evile's had over the years. It's like, it's retro thrash. It's like, no. Yes, Thrasher. Yes, I will admit that's probably retro thrash, but that's the only song.
Yeah, it's my theory behind it is that because metal is, for a lot of people, a sort of a sanctuary, or it's what they turn to, out of sort of they find solace in this kind of genre. I mean, it's not like you don't find that in other genres of music, but I think particularly in metal, people turn to it as like not just a coping mechanism, but just something bigger than that sometimes. It's a whole way of life for a lot of people. And so when something apparently sort of invades that, I think that's why you get people being so protective, because it's easy to see that as your identity, part of your identity, or if not your whole identity, being kind of pulled at a bit when something that isn't quite, it's sort of almost like appropriating metal. And it's like, and I think I can see why people get like that. I still think it's a bit silly, but like I understand the kind of defensive reaction, because people, people have had it as their thing, and it's been what they've turned to for so long. So when it feels like it might be disappearing, if you took a band like Sleep Token, where they're blending in loads of really poppy stuff, and if you're like a hard and fast metalhead, you'd be like, it's not metal.
That's not metal.
But I get it.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I get it when people hear Evile and they think like, it's Metallica. But like,
I feel bad saying that now. I think it's really good.
No, it's thank you. But like classical music, it's been around for hundreds of years. People still write classical music, and people who listen to classical music listen to it with open ears. They don't think, Bach did that in 16 whatever. They just enjoy the music, and I wish people were just a bit more open in the metal genre.
What do you think's the way to get there? How do you get people to be more receptive to that kind of stuff?
I have no idea. But not make it free and low quality.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to see more. I do wonder, like, with Spotify and stuff, there's so much choice all the time. I do wonder if that's...
I use it.
Yeah, no, I do as well. It's it's my go-to. But sometimes I kind of think, if I just had like, say, 30 albums or something, would I have more, like, would that be, I don't know, would that be better? Probably not. I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. I just know that I grew up loving buying the CD or the vinyl and having it and holding it and looking through it. And I have a much better experience with those albums than I do with albums that are just on Spotify. Because there's no connection there. It's like you're listening to some audio, yes, but that's it. There's nothing else, and I miss that.
Yeah, I think there's something about it's almost like it's almost like a decoration in some ways. You know, it's like a book. You know, you have a bookshelf and you feel in the same way you could have a vinyl rack. You know, or just a cupboard or whatever, or like a CD rack. And it's all, you know, the whole point of album covers is they're all colourful and interesting designs, and so you have this big eclectic kind of colourful mix of things. I think it's quite a cool. Again, I'm talking about identity. It's a way of showing kind of what is, you know, if someone walks into your house and sees all your CDs, it's like part of what. It's a way of showing kind of who you are, I think, as well. It sounds a bit deep and pretentious, maybe, but I think it is.
But when you walk into someone's house and see they've got CDs and vinyl, you instantly go like, "Oh, cool!" And you look at them. You don't look at someone's Spotify like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" It's just not interesting.
Yeah.
And like when I listen to like Arise by Sepultura, the album, I not only hear the music, but I remember and feel the digipack version that I bought, and even how it smelled and everything about it. There's all these extra things that come with hearing the music, and yeah, I miss that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe start a movement. We'll start a movement.
Buy albums
or ban. I don't know. Ban Spotify. Maybe we'll start that here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just ban them all. Yeah, it's a new Metallica album. So like, okay, so just one quick question, because I know you got to head off. So there's one quick question for you, and then we'll get your question to start the next conversation.
Yeah.
So
I've got a bit more time.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't. Well, no hurries on this end. But right. So obviously, with you getting your sort of guitar content that you've, I hate using the word content, but kind of the stuff.
Yeah, me too.
You know, the stuff you've been putting out online. What's been your experience of just kind of getting more stuff out there? Has it felt like jumping on the hamster wheel a bit, or is it more relaxed than that? Like, what's the kind of?
Yeah, it's pretty relaxed for me. I'm like, it's great getting all these like people sharing it and commenting. It's really fun. It's cool when I see that people are like laughing and sharing it. It feels good because they're enjoying it. But I'm not tying myself to a schedule. Like, I've got to post a reel every day. I've got to do this every day. I just go about my life, and if an idea comes in my head, I think, oh, that'll be pretty funny. I'll try and fit it in whenever I can. And but then I've got other things to do. Like I have a guitar school on Patreon that I have to make sure I do one lesson a week at least. I got Twitch that I do on Saturdays. I work full time. I've got kids. My content, I hate it too. So it's just when and if I can do it. I don't think I'm going to be any kind of an influencer who's millions of views making a living off TikTok or anything. So I just do it for fun. It keeps me busy.
But you saw me, I've joined you in the million club now. That's the exciting. It's one of those, I remember looking at it like, why? Like, why?
Was it the American
Yeah, it was the whole
thing, yeah.
It's because basically people, most of it is just people not realising we're joking around.
Yeah.
Like there's most of the comments. Although I like to think that, I think 100,000 or so likes outweigh hopefully the 10 or so thousand comments. You know,
I think all you need is a bit of conflict in your post, and people are like, and it just goes.
Yeah, I think
I accidentally put Nirvana Nevermind was released in 1992, and I got so many comments, just 91.
Yeah, even I knew
that.
Yeah. I was surprised. The one that surprised me, I was doing a lesson the other day, and we were looking at an Alice in Chains. I know one of your videos in Alice in Chains, one of your viral ones.
Yeah.
But a student wanted to learn something off of what's like the most what's the sort of orangey coloured Alice in Chains album? Hang on,
Dirt.
I think so. Yeah, so is that the one? Yeah, I think so. Let's have a quick. Yeah. So 92, right? And we were listening to Damn That River, and I thought, oh, that sounds quite a lot like Slither by Velvet Revolver. And I kind of assumed I thought Slither came out first, but that was 2004, which really surprised me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
I would have guessed like I don't know.
I thought
90s.
like late 90s to mid 90s or something.
Yeah. Just because you think Slash and like that kind of, I don't know. I thought it.
Yeah.
I put that earlier, but I guess it kind of makes sense. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, with all the kind of I guess content-y stuff. Is it giving you a lens into the sort of you know, I know you said you're not setting this schedule, and it's not like a you know, you have schedules for a million other things, but for this, it's something more that you're doing. It sounds like kind of as and when you have a good idea, really. But does it feel like a bit of a lens into what it might be like if you were to be kind of creating that stuff regularly?
I guess so, yeah. I do not like the idea of tying myself down to having to do it, because I know a few people who are influencers and all they do is record and edit videos and post and comment and like, and that's their world. And I think I burn myself out really easily doing that. So as long as I enjoy it and have some cool ideas that I have fun with, I'm fine, you know.
I found with the podcast, there's been a couple of times where I've kind of had to have a short break just from releasing, just because like it's not so much a burnout, but it's, you know, I'm trying to be a musician. I'm trying to, you know, I teach as well, and I'm trying to sometimes it just feels like I'm trying to do 2 a week, and I feel like it, especially where it's still growing. It's grown a fair bit since we last spoke.
It has. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. And I enjoy it. It's, you know, I enjoy these conversations and I like the whole process, but it is a grind, you know, especially that first year. I think basically everyone says your first year is like, and your first 1,000, I've got over 1,000 followers now, which is cool. Like, but it's still not like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a big number, is it? So it's difficult.
Better than zero.
It is a lot better than zero. I don't know why, I remember having 35 followers. I remember that for some weird reason. I think I was on episode 5 or something.
Right.
And then it kind of, just slowly grew bit by bit, but it has felt like a slog. I mean, like in terms of your just music in general, how have you kind of, how have you just kept things going? Like, I know obviously you had that kind of, that break from the band, but like, there must be something that keeps you kind of motivated in that way. When
I wasn't in the band, I was still doing music. I did a solo album with Earache, and I still kind of wrote stuff, just like recording it on my phone for if I ever wrote music again. But I did find when I was out of the band and I didn't write music, I found my mood go really low because I wasn't doing that. And I found as soon as I sat down to record something or just play guitar for a bit, my mood started coming back up. And I noticed this up and down of when I wasn't doing music. So if I stay active with being creative, I'm fine. If I stop, I'm not fine. So I need to do it. It's not like, I want to do it and I need to do it. So it goes hand in hand, thankfully. But yeah. That's how I keep it going. Just I keep going, even if it's, you know, Patreon, doing some lessons, writing a riff, doing a stupid reel. Yeah, it just keeps me good.
Yeah, I definitely can resonate. Like I found, for me, I think what it was for a long time, I had a big, I wouldn't say writer's block, but just a sort of I wasn't sure where it was going, you know, the writing. Like, and like, I know for me, I know I write good music, and I know that it's something I can do well and I enjoy. And I think for me, a big part of it was I saw part of my identity as, and part of who I, you know, just who I am as musician, but I wasn't writing anything really, you know, and I wasn't really playing gigs because I sort of left my old band. I think I wasn't in that. I think I left that when we last spoke even, or maybe I don't know. And I realized there's this big sort of gap between what I felt, how I sort of identified myself in my own head and what I was actually doing. And I found that wasn't very healthy. And I think the choice then is either you choose to not be the thing you say that you want to be, as i.e. a musician, or you, and I think the difficult thing is like you put a lot of pressure on it. So you either, there's the pressure of writing or doing whatever it is you're trying to do. But I felt like eventually after a while that was far outweighed by this disconnect that I had. And now that I'm writing a lot more music, I feel a lot more connected with sort of what I'm trying to do, you know. Which it's a weird one, and I think the main thing I kind of learned was, you know, the kind of, I don't know, just trying to connect with what you're doing, you know, doing the thing basically. You know, it's easy to get distracted, and I think through a lot of distractions and other things, I kind of got sidetracked, and that definitely sort of harmed my mental health, I would say. But I feel a lot more like on it now, which is good. So similar kind of experience, I guess. Yeah,
I'm the same. I mean, I think the way I started looking at it when I was younger, I was kind of the same. I was like, I'm a guitarist, I'm a musician, pretending that's my profession. It's not. And I found things easier when I stopped calling myself a guitarist in my head or a musician. And I would only use the term guitarist or musician when someone asked me what I do, or I stopped thinking of myself as a guitarist and just had fun. If I pick up the guitar and have fun on it, don't worry about it. Don't label myself as a guitarist, because I always try and go back to when I first picked up the guitar. I was in my dad's friend's guitar shop, and I think I learned the clean part from Master of Puppets, and it made me so happy when it sounded like it did on the CD that I was making that sound. And I always try and go back to that feeling when I didn't give a shit if I was a guitarist or not. I just made this sound and I loved it. As soon as I started learning more on the guitar and getting good, I was like, yes, I'm a guitarist. I'm good. But then I started taking myself too seriously and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So I always try and pedal back to that first feeling of I can make that sound and it makes me happy. And so I don't take myself seriously. If I mess up live or any time, I genuinely don't care. It's just funny. And that's it. I just don't take it seriously.
I found lately from a lot of my experience has been, and I don't know if this applies to you or if it applies to anything you've written recently, but I really worried about, I was really proud of the EP that I wrote with my old band. And like what we were talking about, it sounds really good. You know, it's very well produced, like any sort of proper, you know, band's music, I guess. But and so I was kind of like, I think mentally I was like, am I going to write something that good again? I feel out of practice. And then I remember, and maybe a couple months ago, I was like, I'm just going to finish a song. I'm just going to finish it and put out the demo or whatever. And I finished it and put it out. I was like, this is probably like 80% as good. And it took me like 10 days. And then I just felt like such an idiot because I was like, if I can do, then the next thing I wrote was probably like 85% as good. And I wrote that in about 10 days, for the following 10 days. And then the last couple of things I've written, I think are probably as good as this. And it probably could have gone on that EP had I written it back then. And it probably would have been one of the top tracks, you know? And I'm like, oh man, I really was getting in my own way. You know. Yeah,
there's a lot to be said to just doing it and not overthinking it. I am an overthinker, and that's why some of my songs take like 6 months to complete, because I'm just constantly trying to find that finished song in the other universe. But so there's some songs where it's happened and it's finished surprisingly quick, and they're usually the best songs. So yeah, I fully understand that.
Yeah, I was what was I going to say? Yeah, I there were a couple of moments where I just like I had to listen back and I was like, wow, I think that's really good. And it took me. My main rule now is I only do one song at a time. That's it. If I don't finish this, like what I'll do is I'll either, it hasn't happened yet, but I think if I get to the point where it's really not working, I will finish the song that day. I'll just go, I'm going to finish this now and it's done. And that way, and if there's a really crappy bridge in it, doesn't matter. I'll just move on to the next song because I might reuse the old bit at some point, you know. Versus having like a riff graveyard. I'm determined to not have that ever again. I feel like it's hard to resurrect things from the riff graveyard, I feel.
So I am the opposite. I recently found out that I have ADHD, and it makes a lot of sense now when I look back on my life. And I usually have maybe 5 songs on the go at once that I'm constantly bouncing between to like add little parts, to delete parts. And I need that. If I was working on one song, it would drive me nuts.
Oh, it does.
Because I can't. I need to add more songs.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. I think I think for me, it's between a rock and a hard place. The one I'm choosing is the awkwardness of just having one song, because I would sooner spend a month on it, but then it's done, and it's rather than like be jumping between and not feel like I've finished anything. I hate that feeling of not feeling like I've done something, you know. And I think for me, the one I'm picking, they're both crappy. There's no winning unless you're just so easygoing that you can just sort of do whatever, which I don't think many musicians can. There are some. I've had a few on the podcast that are like weirdly chill. I'm like, what do you mean you just do it? Like, you know. But yeah, cool. I've got one more question. I'm trying to grow this out. Trying to grow this a bit. This is as much. I mean, it's to be fair, it's, you know, it's getting there, but I'm trying to grow a bit of a beard down this way. Something fairly, you know, you don't want it too, like, not too long. I don't mean too long, but too long for me. Maybe to like here. What are your top few beard tips?
So I would say get some good beard shampoo.
Got that.
After you've shampooed it, get find a brush that's good for you. Brush it all up after you've washed it, then brush it back down. I get some beard balm and some beard oil. So in the morning, run beard balm through it, get it all nice, and then some beard oil down into the skin and massage into the skin, and just do that in the morning, nighttime as well, and it just makes it a lot healthier, and I think it encourages growth as well. So give that a go.
Nice. I have both of them, but I don't do. I kind of semi-regularly use them, so maybe I should commit.
Yeah, I think if do it for like 2 weeks religiously, morning and night, and see what difference you feel and see. I think you will see a difference. Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of been at this stage for a while now, so maybe that's what it needs. It's a little bit kind of coming down this way, but maybe next time you see me, it'll be like.
Yeah, just the whole screen's a beard.
Yeah, just be like all the way around me.
Joe?
Yeah, it'll just be a front. Yeah, go for like the reverse. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I'll get a question for the next guest to open my next conversation, and an artist pick as well, someone that you want to plug to the world.
Right. So my artist pick would be Tortured Demon. They have a new album out. I couldn't tell you any song titles, but their new album's good. I think it's Rise of the Lifeless, I think it's called. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But a question. What kind of questions have people been doing?
It's really varied. So obviously you got one that was quite like soul searching, I guess. And there's been a few like that. There's been a few quite silly ones. I've had like what was one that I've had like a Would You Rather. I've had a couple of them. So it really depends. Whatever you think, anything you think that in any direction could send me in a good conversational into a good conversational place, whatever it in whichever way it might be.
Okay, I've got one. What did you do today to make the world a better place? And if you didn't do it, what are you going to do tomorrow to do that?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. And I'll hold them to it.
Let me know who it is and what they say.
Yeah. I'll hold them to it as well. I'll drop them a message the next day. Like,
what have you done?
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Anything else you want to kind of plug?
We've got a UK tour starting next week, starting in Brighton. Lots of other places I'm not going to list because my memory is terrible. Check out the new Evile album, The Unknown. Pick up a copy of the CD or the vinyl. It really helps bands out more than you'd probably ever know. And that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joe.